bringing me on stage here. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday. It's hump day. Mike. Guess what day it is? I have to apologize in advance. You will see me trying to wipe my eyes, and my allergies are kicked in overtime today. I don't know what it is. My eyes continue to water, runny nose, just stuffed. It's all the shit that's in the air. Weather can't make up its mind. So if you see me blinking my eyes a lot, trying to wipe them, they're watering like really bad. But welcome to Student Body Right here on the Cole County Entertainment Network. I am your host, Ryan Neff. Hopefully, coming up at some point will be Mr. Steve Helwick at S_Helwick on the Twitter machine. College football writer, Houston Rice American Athletic Conference. Well, I don't know if they call it the American Athletic Conference anymore. I think it's just the American Conference. Conference USA, Big 12 reporter at Underdog Dynasty, on at SB Nation, Mac at By the Belt, Past at Project Spurs, at the Daily Texan, Football Writers Association of America. It says here he's an NBA junkie. I don't follow the NBA that much. They play a game that I'm not familiar with. They just rain threes all over the place. There's no defense. I just saw him pop in the green room. So let's bring him on, ladies and gentlemen. That is Mr. Steve Helwick. Steve, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no, sir. Yes, sir. So the Houston Cougars season last year, they were 10-3, obviously. Mm-hmm. Anytime you go 10-3 down there in Houston, it's a successful season. Where are we post spring game? I was just trying to read over some notes from the spring game. I see Willie Fritz had made a comment that he just wanted to get out of the spring game healthy. It looks like they did that. He didn't really play a lot of the starters. But where are we at post-spring game with this particular program?
Yeah, the spring game didn't really see any starters play. He kind of equated it to a first game of preseason where you're not going to go out there and play Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees or anything. So they sat Connor Wegman, Shadre Hurst, Amari Thomas, some of the team's biggest stars. But with this Houston team, they're coming off a 6-game leap from 4-8 in Willie Fritz's first year to 10-3 last year. And if you look at two of those losses, the TCU and West Virginia losses, those were very winnable games. So I think given the improvement Willie Fritz showed from year 1 to year 2, the amount of retained talent that they have from Connor Wegman at quarterback to Amari Thomas at wide receiver to some of those defensive backs like their leading interceptions getter, Will James, they have a lot of the pieces in place, and I thought that they worked the portal pretty well this offseason. One thing about this Houston team is they didn't really lose too many guys to other schools in the portal. They just lost guys to graduation, ran out of eligibility, NFL draft. So I think that's one good thing to see about Willie Fritz's program is the retention that they've had. They brought back their offensive coordinator, Slade Nagel. They brought back their defensive coordinator, and Coach Armstrong there. So I think that Houston's in pretty good shape going into this 2026 season. But the Big 12, it's a grind. There's a lot of teams in it, and there's a lot of good teams in it. I mean, last year alone, there's BYU and Utah that were on the fringe of the playoff. Texas Tech wins the conference. Then there's a kind of a batch of like 8-9 win teams that are competitive there, like your TCUs of the conference. Houston was in there, finishing 10-3. So I think Houston just needs to find a way to get into that upper echelon of the conference and just make that jump from good to great. But it's harder than it is just to talk about it.
Other things I have written down here, other than Connor Wegman not playing, 5-star recruit Keyshawn Henderson. How was his spring game?
Yeah, Keyshawn Henderson got the majority of snaps at quarterback, and he looked pretty good out there. And I'm very impressed for his poise at such a young age. I mean, he's still a senior in high school, just about to graduate, finished 10th in his class. He's a really smart kid, and I mean, this is a recruit that Houston has had their eye on for a long time, and he has been loyal to Houston throughout the process. He could have gone anywhere in the country. He knew he was going to come in here and back up Connor Wegman, and he's had a really good attitude about it and talked about kind of learning under Connor and how Connor gave him some pointers during the spring game, and then he threw a touchdown on that next possession. So, yeah, he's a good dual threat quarterback, scrambles a lot during the spring game there, and it was good to see some of the throws that he makes. So he's going to spend his first year as the backup to Connor at Houston, most likely. And then he's the future of the program after that. I mean, it's a huge deal for Willie Fritz and the Houston staff to land a 5-star quarterback, somebody that just showed loyalty to the university throughout the process. And in his media availability post spring game, he called coming to Houston the greatest decision he's ever made, especially enrolling early and learning the playbook and getting that under his belt before he even starts in fall camp. Because Houston's going to add 15 to 20 more guys, I think, when fall camp begins in late July, August. And Keyshawn Henderson's already ahead of the game there. So it's going to be a player that Houston fans are hyped about. But, I mean, there could be injuries. There could be other factors. But in likelihood, it's not somebody we're expected to see a lot of here in year one as a true freshman.
The thing I have circled here is the tight ends. How important are the tight ends for Houston going to be this year?
Well, last year, Houston hadn't really had too much tight end production in recent years. That's always been a staple of Slade Nagel offenses, though. He came over from Tulane. They used some tight ends like Tyreek James, Will Wallace on that 2022 Cotton Bowl team. They ran a lot of 12 personnel there. Houston last year, they mainly used just one tight end in Tanner Koziol. He had 74 receptions, team high there. Got drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tanner Koziol was such a good tight end, led all FBS tight ends in receptions. And that's going to be a hard player to replace, 6'7", 250. But Houston did work the transfer portal. They got Patrick Overmeyer from UTSA. He was somebody who really thrived toward the end of the year as a receiving tight end. I remember he caught a deep ball early in that late October game against Tulane where UTSA pulled off that massive upset. And I was really impressed with his game that day. And Overmeyer really came into his own at the end of last year and had his best season with 344 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. So I think he'll be a part of the offense, but replacing Koziol is going to be tough because those receptions have to go elsewhere. Right. I think that they'll go more to wide receivers this year than tight ends. I think Houston might be a little thinner at tight end without Tanner Koziol because that's a tough replacement. But at wide receiver, they retain Amari Thomas, who had 12 touchdown catches, almost 1,000 yards last year. And also they get Trent Walker, who was an 800, 900-yard receiver at Oregon State each of the past 2 seasons. So I think from a receiving perspective, I think the wide receivers take more production, the tight ends take less, but still Overmeyer is going to be valuable there as maybe a third, fourth option in the receiving game and a good blocker that Houston's offense is going to need to rely on.
So going over the team rankings nationally from last year, look, I thought from what I was seeing, Houston did well running. Offensively. It was the pass game where they were a little bit lax. And then on the defensive side of the ball, same thing. I was taking a look at it. They did statistically well against the run, but on the back end, they were middle of the pack, gave up some big plays here and there. So from what I'm seeing here going into, I always call it summer camp. It's not fall camp. If they can improve in both those areas on both sides of the ball and special teams, because I know Willie Fritz had talked about the kicking game a little bit. They can improve in those areas somewhat. I wouldn't see why this year they wouldn't be able to compete in the Big 12 as far as the title race goes.
Yeah, Houston at the beginning of the year last year, they were really good in the turnover game on kind of both sides of the ball of preventing turnovers and creating them for themselves. You saw a lot of that in that week 3 game against Colorado. But the middle to late of the year, it got in a bit of a funk. They started throwing more interceptions. The defense wasn't creating as many turnovers and interceptions, and that's how the losses to West Virginia and TCU happened there. So I think that ball security, taking care of the ball, is one of Houston's big emphases that they have to retain for the 2026 season because that worked really well in 2025. Also, I think Houston did a pretty good job of also cutting some of their penalties last year, pre-snap penalties, and that didn't affect them as much. So I think playing a disciplined brand of football will take you a very far way. That's something that Willie Fritz always emphasizes. I mean, holding pass interference, that will be up to the discretion of the referee, but he always emphasizes that Cougs don't beat the Cougs. He doesn't want those offsides, false start penalties, delay of games, just those preventable mistakes. And these are signatures of Willie Fritz teams. I mean, this is a coach that hasn't been fired. He's just been on an upward climb his entire coaching career. When he's coaching at Blinn, the junior college Cam Newton went to, going to Sam Houston, then to Georgia Southern, to Tulane, to Houston. And Willie Fritz has been through it all there, and that signature style of football has really helped him. But I do think that Houston does have good personnel this year. I would say defensive line is one position group that I'm a little the jury's still out on because losing Eddie Walls and Carlos Allen, who were two of their top pass rushers last year. I mean, Carlos Allen led all defensive tackles in the FBS with 80 tackles, which is a lot for a DT. And Eddie Walls, their leader in tackles for loss and sacks, and 7 sacks, 11 and a half tackles for loss. So I think replacing that D line is one thing that Houston needs. They need to thrive in the trenches defensively, and that's one of my areas of emphasis that I'm going to put on them for the 2026.
Let me ask you this: at the end of last year, the bowl game, how big was it heading into 2026 for them to go out and beat LSU in a shootout?
I think, that's more of the 2025 team than the 2026 team. I mean, especially when some of the stars of that game are Dean Connors, a running back who just signed with the Rams, and Tanner Koziel made a clutch fourth down reception. He drafted with the Jaguars. Eddie Walls had several sacks that game. So, that's big for the 2025 team. But I do think that when you get that win, over LSU, you get that 10th win of the year, you finish ranked. I think that's momentum that a program needs to see. Those are momentum that guys in the transfer portal need to see before committing to Houston. And then you can build off that from there. I mean, that winning a bowl game is always a great advertisement for a program, especially when it's a win that propels you to a 10th win, which is a kind of a landmark number of wins, propels you to a ranking. If they lose that game, they finish the season unranked. So now Houston's on everyone's radar because they finished that year with the number 22 ranking. You see what Connor Wegman does in that MVP performance in the bowl game. He's coming back. So, yeah, that's the biggest win Houston's had in the 2020s decade, other than maybe the 2021 Birmingham Bowl win, which got them a bit higher in the final polls. But still, Houston needed a moment like that, and it's showing that the Willie Fritz era is really coming to fruition just in year 2. And now heading into year 3, they're talking Big 12 championship, playoff. Those are realistic goals that this program can have, when last year it was about making a bowl game, getting a winning record.
So looking at the schedule this year, I know it's early. They open with Oregon State. It should be a win because Oregon State is on the downslide. When they play Southern U at home, that's a W. Then the big one early, Houston at Texas Tech. We know I have that one circled. Then they play Georgia Southern. That's a W. UCF, but they get them at home. But I don't see them losing that one. And they have to go to Kansas State. I still don't know what we're getting with Kansas State. So obviously that's winnable. Oklahoma State, I see all this hoopla about Oklahoma State, and I still have to see it on the field, Steve.
They have some
another big one back, and then they have to go Utah, which is, but look, Kyle Whittingham's no longer there. Then they get Cincinnati at home. They got to go to Colorado. Then they have to go to West Virginia, and then the last one, Baylor or Houston. I've got the Texas Tech game. Let's see, the Utah game and the Kansas State game all circled.
Those are all 3 big road games against opponents that have had pretty good track records recently. I mean, playing at Salt Lake City is never an easy environment to play in. I know Whittingham's gone, but they've had Morgan Scalley as the head coach in waiting for a few years there. I think Utah's still going to retain that signature brand of physical smash mouth football where their O-line and D-line are among the superior units in the Big 12. I mean, you look at the draft that produced Spencer Fano in the 4th round. They're consistently producing some of the top offensive tackles, defensive linemen in college football. So that's going to be a test of physicality there on October 24th against Utah. Kansas State can also be a tough opponent at times. I mean, last year was a bit of a down year for K State, but I mean, Houston went to Manhattan a few years ago. They lost that game, I believe, 48-0. So that's never an easy place to play. Yeah, Texas Tech that Friday night, week 3. I mean, that's they played Texas Tech somewhat early last year on October 4th, but yeah, this is a week 3 game, Friday night in Lubbock, important week. I mean, we don't know what the status of Brendan Sorsby is going to be at Texas Tech at this point, but still, Texas Tech does have quarterback depth. They're pretty loaded at all positions. They've worked the portal as well as any team. I think that this year, again, they're going to work it pretty well. Last year, Texas Tech built as good as a defensive line as there was in college football. All those guys ended up getting drafted. So that's going to be another tough matchup from a physicality standpoint and for the Cougars. So yeah, those are definitely games to circle. Now Houston did lose 2 home games last year of their 3 losses. So I would say that there's also probably a wait, they lost 3 home games. They went undefeated on the road. Yeah. All 3 of their
Yeah.
losses were at home last year. So I mean, you can't look past the home games too. I would say their toughest home game is probably going to be Oklahoma State, who I think might have the best quarterback in the country this year, and Drew Messinaker. Just some of the throws he makes, high level NFL throws. I think he's going to be the number 1 pick in the 2027 draft. With all that offensive talent that Oklahoma State's inheriting, I think Eric Morris is going to succeed first year in Stillwater, and I think that's going to be a really tough game, maybe a shootout there at TDUCU Stadium.
Yeah, a couple things more, and I'll let you go here. You mentioned Oklahoma State, Eric Morris. Look, it was a dumpster fire the last year and a half. And I'm forgetting the coach's name there before.
Mike
yeah, Mike Gundy. Why are people calling this a sleeper team?
I mean, they got the top quarterback in college football from last year in passing yards. They got as talented as a freshman running back as there was in the country, Caleb Hawkins, who can do it, who's both a good running and receiving threat. I mean, he had 25 touchdowns last year, average over 6 yards a carry, effective receiver. Wyatt Young, I think, finished top 3 in receiving yards and stats. Oklahoma State's skill position players that they got from the portal are almost insane. And also, this team, I think maybe all but 1 or 2 guys are portal guys. And we've seen teams that have done portal overhauls kind of succeed in year ones of it. Look at Indiana with Chris Signetti. Lincoln Riley at USC when he arrived there. Those were teams that were very heavy on the transfer portal. And I mean, this Oklahoma State team's almost unrecognizable from last year. It's a completely new team that's starting, and even the 2 deep part of the depth chart is all portal. And I think Oklahoma State worked it about as well as anybody this offseason, getting some of the top guys from North Texas and also picking up some of the top transfers from other places as well. And North Texas was a really good team last year, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And I think that Oklahoma State's going to be equipped. I'm not saying that they're going to win the Big 12 or anything, but I think they're a team that's going to be equipped from not winning a Big 12 game for 2 straight years to a team that's going to be at least bowl eligible with the amount of talent that they inherited in this roster.
The last thing before I let you go, the American Football Coaches Association, they have proposed a few things, changes. One, the elimination of conference championship games, which I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm a big proponent of that. Reduced bye weeks from 2 to 1 and ending the season by the second Monday in January. I know this will never happen, Steve, but I talk to people about this all the time. I think they should get rid of the AP poll. They should get rid of the coaches poll. If magazines want to come out with their particular rankings, that's great. Let the season play out, and then by the 8th week, have the College Football Playoff Committee come out with the rankings. If you're going to keep your conference championship game, there should be no automatic qualifiers. I know this will never happen, Steve, but I just think you play the season, that the College Football Playoff Committee pick the best right now, 12 teams, as far as that goes. And then let them decide. I don't know what you hear from talking to different people, different programs across the Conference USA and the Big 12. Something's got to change somewhere. I just don't know if they're going to approve all these proposed changes.
Yeah, I mean, I was never really I like the 4-team playoff model the best because I think most seasons deserve to have more than 4 teams even compete for a national championship. I know we saw an 8 seed Ohio State win it, but I do like the value of the regular season where 1 or 2 games can slip up. Like you think the 2013 Iron Bowl, the impact of that game of Auburn beating Alabama was just magnificent compared to what it would be today. 24 is way too much. That's a non-starter in a conversation for me. 12, the only thing I like about 12 is increased access, because now is the only time where it does feel like that all 138 teams, as we're adding to this year, all 138 teams truly have the opportunity to win a national championship going into the season. That did not used to be the case. I mean, you look at 2016 Western Michigan that just dominates their schedule. They go 12-0, and what the college football playoff rankings put them at 15. Not even close. Even some of those better teams that went 12-0, whether it's Florida State and 13-0 with the conference championship, whether it's Florida State a few years ago or UCF in 2017 and 18 or Cincinnati in 2020. I mean, there aren't too many teams that enter the playoff field undefeated, but I do like those teams having access. So that is the one part about the 12-team playoff that I've been able to rally behind. The only change I feel like college football really needs from a postseason standpoint, I'm fine with the 12-team playoff at this point, is it does need to end earlier. They need to.
Yeah.
I would just maybe start the first round of the playoffs on, would it be Army Navy week? I don't know if that's like, I mean, there's bowl games that already play there. You can do Army Navy during the day and then have, now if one of them makes the playoff, which Army and Navy have been pretty close in recent years, that's where you get a little more gray area. But yeah, I would probably just start the playoff a week earlier and just try to end it sooner, because I think Martin Luther King Day is the playoff ending. That's way too late. We're all shifted to watching the NFL playoffs by then. Like,
oh yeah,
the calendar is too late, and I would like to see it end by the second week of January. So that's something that college football will have to figure out, whether that's moving up to using week 0 is more of a week 1. That's a possibility in the future, but we'll see where it goes from there. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of dialogue on it in the next few years. I just hope they don't make the mistake of expanding to 24, because we do not need to see some 8-4 teams competing in the college football playoff.
Right. One more thing, I'll let you go. Since you're the NBA aficionado, who wins the NBA title season this year and why?
Okay, I am a San Antonio Spurs fan, but it's going to be the Thunder. The Thunder, their defense is just so good. I mean, you see teams that can just light it up from 3 and create runs from there. The Thunder, they create runs with their defense, just forcing steals in the backcourt, going into transition, and that defense really won them last year's championship. I know the Spurs beat them 4 out of 5 times in the regular season, but I think playoff basketball is a different sport. I think the Thunder will take down the Knicks in the NBA Finals.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Steve Helwick. Steve, tell the people where they can get a hold of you or watch you.
Yes, Steve Helwick. My name is on the screen right there. Just search it on Twitter. Steve Helwick. It's not too common of a name. You'll be able to find it anywhere. A lot of my work is on SB Nation on their site, Underdog Dynasty. I'll cover a multitude of conferences and games for them based in Houston. So a lot of Houston Cougars, Rice Owls coverage, but I do a lot of Big 12 and American Conference as well. And also I write for an independent Mac site called By the Belt as well. So I just like all college football, watch all 138 teams, and love covering games. So yeah.
Sometime in August, I will be doing my 3rd annual college football preview special. Steve, I will have to pick your brain because there'll be all kinds of things to talk about heading into the 2026 season. But thank you, sir.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
You too.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Helwick. Yeah, we're in May, so I'm really not going to I'm overly excited that college football is only 3 months away. But I'm not going to go into like the in-depth analysis of this, that, and the other thing, just because it's in May. Anything can happen between now and Labor Day weekend. So some other news and notes from around the world in college football. This is reported by Andrea Adelson of ESPN. The ACC is supporting a 2014 college football playoff model that gives hope to all teams. And I've said before, why don't we just include all 140 teams? You can start the playoffs a week after Thanksgiving. 64 buys or whatever, it's good, 70 buys or whatever, and then the other 70 are at large. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips has said that the conference is backing an expanded college football playoff. If you remember, the Big Ten initially proposed the 2014 model. And according to insiders, it has started to gain traction. I think 24 teams is too much. I think if you really want to do it, if they're going to expand, 16 teams, no more. 16-team playoff, no more. That's all you need. 16 teams, period. And again, I've said this for the last 4 or 5 years. AP poll, get rid of it. The coaches poll, get rid of it. They don't mean anything. They don't mean dick. They don't mean squat. Again, if all these publications that come out with their college football magazines preseason, that's fine. But the AP poll and the coaches poll, they don't mean jack shit anymore. Don't have any rankings, period, in any college sport. You let the season play out, and then after the 8th week of the season or 9th week, and the college football playoff committee comes out with their college football playoff rankings, and then you take it from there. And then at the end of the season, when all the games are done, there should be no automatic bids. I don't like automatic bids. Just let the committee pick what they think is the best 16 teams in the nation, and you're playing off. And I can add on to that. The college football playoff committee, there should be no presidents of universities. There should be no former athletic directors or former presidents. College football playoff committee should be made up of coaches who have coached college football, former players. That's what it should be. And then you hammer it out. That was the big news. Steve Sarkisian, who hasn't won shit at Texas, by the way. I don't know if he should be opening his mouth, but coaches are starting to throw shade. You remember Kiffin's controversial comments about Ole Miss, about he didn't feel comfortable about the Confederate flag and some other stuff. Texas coach Steve Sarkisian told USA Today that all you have to do at Ole Miss to get a degree is take basket weaving. John Summerall, who's now the coach at Florida, he was a former assistant at Ole Miss, said yesterday afternoon with a jab at Sarkisian on X, grateful to coach at a top 10 public university that also offers advanced basket weaving. It's going to be an interesting season in the SEC, especially with Kiffin going to LSU. James Franklin has said that Virginia Tech's next athletic director must be aggressive with football. Franklin said, I wouldn't say it's necessarily ideal, but there's some advantages of being able to partner with somebody and build this together, both coming in with fresh eyes and fresh experience. He said during a break in ACC meetings. Well, of course you're going to say that. Those are some of the top headlines. Again, we're getting into the nitty gritty of it. Just looking over some other news and notes. Commissioner Greg Sankey of the SEC, who started all this bullshit with super conferences and college football expansion, he said he's still standing firm on the 16-team college football playoff. I believe it'll happen. This doesn't say when they would expand to 16 teams. Excuse me. Remember last month, An NCAA committee recommended that football bowl subdivision teams play a 12-game schedule over 14 weeks beginning in 2027, next year, obviously, with the season starting on the Thursday of what is now designated week 0 and ending the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So I'm all for that. When I went over with Steve about them eliminating conference championship games, I'm all for that too. Once upon a time, they meant something. They don't mean fucking diddly dick anymore. Nothing. Conference championships mean nothing. Do nothing. Play the season. Whoever has the best record, here's your conference champion winner. And if there's teams that are tied, then you go to tiebreakers. People will say, well, if Texas is 9-0 against their conference and so is Georgia, they should play in an SEC title game. Why? Back in the day, they had their purpose. It was exciting. Back in the days when there was no playoff. But not anymore. So I think I'm going to end it there. Again, I want to thank Steve Helwick for joining the program. Always interesting. Again, we are 3 months away, 3.5 from the start of the college football season. We're about 2 months away from NFL training camps beginning to open. Ladies and gentlemen, it's already the middle of May, almost. Where the time goes. Coming up at 7 p.m. here on the Cole County Entertainment Network, another edition of Early Evening Sports Buffet with the Ginch. I am Sid Ginch, Ryan Neff, your host. Don't know if I'm doing a show tomorrow yet. Again, it just depends. My allergies are just fucking full blown, man. I'm just eyes are watering, my nose is stuffed. Just got that hazy kind of like allergy sufferer thing going on. So, and then on Friday morning, 10 a.m., join me for an early edition of Early Evening Sports Buffet with the Ginch. 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jay Billis will be joining me from ESPN. Lawyer extraordinaire, by the way. He has a law degree and he practices law. But more importantly, we'll talk about the state of college basketball, what he thinks about the expanded field for March Madness, and then we'll get into other things where he thinks NIL, the transfer portal, where all this is sustainable and where it's not, what he would do if he were maybe in charge of the NCAA on March Madness, where he would make tweaks. What is going on now? So join me at 7 p.m. Early in the Sports Buffet with the Ginch. I will see you in about a half hour.